All right, and we're ready to go. Thank you very much for joining the webinar for this month. We are going to talk about how to become a property manager. And the reason why we think we should be experts on this topic is, as I'm sure some of you are aware, you can't just sign up on our website and use Hostaway. You have to actually talk to us. And that's because we have a genuine interest in your business. And I just did the math. We've spoken to over 18,000 property managers just in the last couple of years. That's right. We have a big team. As some of you may be aware, we raised 175 million and we expanded slightly. So we got a lot of people around the world. But one of the most common themes that we hear from these property managers when they're looking to get into software, and don't worry, this webinar is not about software, this is about managing properties, is that they have one or two, sometimes 10, 20 properties they own, and they are looking into the property management model. So this webinar will be a deep dive from all angles into why become a property manager. But first, a short intro about Hostaway. We're the leading all-in-one short-term rental software for property managers. We're a preferred plus partner of Airbnb and a lead partner with Vrbo, premier with Booking.com. We're also integrated with Homes and Villas, Expedia, TripAdvisor. And when I say preferred plus, that's not something that's to be taken lightly. It basically means, yes, Kevin, you can get a copy of the recording. It will be posted on YouTube as soon as they have enough video processing power. I still don't know how Google does it. They can have endless cloud servers, but they can't process the video in faster than 20 hours. Yeah, so these OTAs, Airbnb, Vrbo, and Booking.com, they measure how good these softwares are because it's really important for the business model. A lot of the business that they do comes or operates on this software, and the software needs to be reliable, and that's why we're chosen to be a top tier partner of each one of them. So today we're going to go through why someone were to become a property manager. Who are they? How do they get started? What are the different business models? How do you set it up for scalability? Is there any point in managing one or two properties, or when you could just as well manage 10 or even 100? How does the guest experience play into this, and how do you scale your team? These are some of the topics that we're going to go through. Okay, Kevin is saying no sound, but I'm guessing that others can hear me. Yeah, Maria is nodding. All right. So first of all, we're living in very interesting times in the short-term rental landscape. I put together a spreadsheet. I wanted to thank you, Sebastian. You can hear me. That's good enough. If the other 900 people can't, at least we have Sebastian here. I took a real life example and put it in a spreadsheet. Right now, if you're planning to buy a property for to use as a short-term rental, the numbers really don't add up. I took here, I went on Zillow and I typed in vacation rentals in Florida, and they suggested, well, that's a bit broad. How about Kissimmee? Yeah, that's great. Dude, who doesn't like Disney World? I found a really nice pool home, 4 bedrooms. You could rent it out, and there's even a tag on Zillow called short-term rental. So it found me a couple of homes, and I took this as an example. It cost $409,000 to buy. Now, the income here, I'm being very, very generous. It's not going to generate 48,000 a year. That's a 12% cap rate, no, 11%. But let's just pretend that it will, because it might. Who knows? If you were to own it, you're going to pay mortgage interest. Look at this number here, 6%. I got the lowest interest anyone can get because that's how good I am. But that's still $1,600 a month. And then you gotta do, in addition to that, the amortization, that's 400. But then what a lot of people are forgetting is that right now, if you're sitting on a 20% down payment, you can just put it in a bank account and earn 5%. So that's 340 that you'll lose if you put it as a down payment. But then, because we're in Florida, home insurance is crazy, and you got to maintain the pool, you got to maintain the lawn, there's a homeowner association fee, and then there's all the utilities. And yeah, maybe paying $70 to have an internet connection isn't a lot, but when you add that up with water, gas, and so on, you'll see that you'll be paying around $4,200 a month just to have the place. Now, if you were a property manager, you would be paying none of that because all of those costs go to the owner. Now, if we look here at the income, we see that with 48,000, once again, I'm a bit over optimistic here. That's 4,000 a month. Now, I'm assuming you'll have on average 4 guests a month, which is 600 in cleaning fees. And that's pretty cheap. 150 for a 4-bedroom house. You're going to be struggling finding reliable cleaners at that rate, but I'm being optimistic here. Now, you're going to be assuming you pay a property manager for this, unless you're doing it yourself, you're going to pay the property manager around 800. So suddenly you're negative 1,500 on that investment. And of course, some might be saying you're building equity, but as you saw in the amortization there, that's only 400 a month. So even after 10 years, you're only going to be building 800 a month. Now, if you wanted to have this property, but do it in a profitable way, you could be managing it yourself without owning it, and you would make 800. So, the numbers add up. This is why a lot of property owners realize how expensive it is to own a property and how you can still make more money by managing it. So think about it. Would you rather pay 1,500 a month for the luxury of owning a vacation rental, or would you rather make 800 a month for managing a property? All right, that was a quick Excel exercise that I did. Now, one reason why so many of these 18,000 people that we spoke to in the last couple of years mentioned that they have become property managers is that it's a one-time investment. The amount of things you have to learn to manage just one rental is about 95% of what you need to learn to manage 100 rentals. Most of the stuff you have to learn, the connections you have to build, the experiences you have to go through, those are completely scalable. And they're even scalable globally because people travel globally. The guests are going to be the same with small differences, of course. And one major reason why you should consider becoming a property manager if you're currently owning a property is that you have created some really valuable assets as a byproduct of you owning a vacation rental. You have connections, you have expertise, you have knowledge, you know what to do. And that is something that is very valuable to other people who don't have those skills. And this is your way to turn that negative 1,500 into a positive 800 per property, per home, by the skills you might already have. All right, next slide. So here's we did a quick sample and we looked at who are the people who become a property manager. I mentioned one category already, the vacation rental owner who has friends who tells him or her, hey, why don't you manage my property? Because I'm doing a terrible job at it. This is exactly what I meant with the expertise and how you can monetize it. Another common path to this is being a real estate agent, especially if you're in a market where vacation rentals are popular. Quite often, you'll have someone who buys a vacation rental, and then they'll ask you, hey, who can manage it? And a common model is just to refer them to a property manager, but it might be more profitable to actually become a property manager. And a lot of the customers we have, they started their real estate journey as a real estate agent or broker. Another big trend that we're seeing, this especially with larger portfolios, is long-term property owners or even long-term property managers moving to short-term. And there's also a lot of newbies, people who don't have experience, who are entering this industry. And if you're one of them, this webinar is definitely for you. Now we're going to hand over, sorry, I forgot the introductions here. We have Josh, our Chief Customer Officer, sitting in San Antonio, Texas. We have Maria, our VP of Product. She's in Barcelona. And I even forgot to introduce myself. My name is Marcus from Hostaway. If you've seen me before and think I look different, that's because I lost 40 pounds in about 3 months. And I also bought a Metallica Kill 'Em All t-shirt because that's the mood I'm in today. But now over to you, Josh.
Thanks, Marcus. Before we move on here, we got we got a new addition to our webinar series. We have an official Hostaway poll. We want to know who's on this call right now. If you are a property manager on this call, are you a property owner? Are you a real estate agent? Are you long-term, moving to short-term? Are you just completely new to the space? So we'll give a little bit to answer that. We want to know, like I said, Marcus was talking about, we've talked to over 18,000 people that are in the space over the last couple of years. So we have our own idea. It's pretty good idea, but we want to know who's here on the call. So, all right. Well, we looks like we've got about 58% vacation rental owners, Marcus, Maria. So yeah, that kind of fits in. So great. So we're talking about that. Let's talk about how do you get started as a property manager. So I love webinars like this. I love being able to go to Google if I'm looking to start a new company or I'm looking to start a new business venture or whatever. And nowadays you can go and you can find people like Hostaway here that's just being able to give like industry insights. So you don't have to go at this alone, right? You don't have to go spend years and years investing into mentorship and being behind someone to get your foot in the door. You can get resources like this. So I love these type of webinars. So how do you get started? So with anything in real estate and other things in life too, location is very, very important. If you think about if I want to buy a property or partner with someone in the industry to rent their vacation rental out, if it's a hut in the middle of the desert somewhere, not next to any water, now these OTAs do have certain experiences and everybody will pay for something, right? But if the chances of you getting somebody to rent that and you be successful with that type of property is probably pretty low. Whereas if you're in Florida, like Marcus was talking about, where you got a condo on a beach with a nice pool, you jumping into a vacation rental, short-term rental property, or as the property manager, you'll probably be a little bit more successful with that. Now, again, back to the desert example, there are people out there that will pay for anything, and I hope you find them. But if you want to be extremely successful starting out, go look for those that are in great locations. Again, if you talk about it, the resources that are available, and we'll get down into the software here in a minute, but the resources that are available out there, there's tons of data analytic companies out there that are able to go in, you're able to see, what's the market look like? How much can I make? Am I going to be able to rent this out, year round? There's so many resources out there now. You can go in and find where to start, so you're not having to take the bad locations. You're able to start this kind of business and be very successful fairly quickly just with the resources that are available at this, including this webinar here. You also want to look into your ICP. So what that is your ideal client profile. And when I talk about that, you're going to have a different one for your guests, right? So you're going to have an ideal client profile, which is going to be your owners. And you're going to have the ideal guest profile, which is going to be the guests that are coming to stay at the property you either own or you're managing out, right? Or owning and managing, which you'll see a big combination. Obviously, we've got a lot of vacation rental owners here on this call. But what this is okay, so you're looking at who do I want to manage properties for, right? And why that's important is because each one of them is going to be different. So if you think about, I have a real estate investor, right, that buys a lot of properties. He or she is very revenue driven, right? Whereas you've got a vacation property owner that owns one property and it's their baby, and all they care about is making a little bit of money on the side, but they really, really want to make sure that their property is well taken care of. Now, where that comes into play as an issue, well, not an issue, just what you need to be aware of is if you go to the very revenue driven investor and you say, hey, I've got this insurance product I want to put on every night of the stay here for your property. It's going to protect your property. It's going to be great. So you never have to lose out on any money. Well, they're going to say, how much does it cost? Whereas if you go to a property owner that's really, really cares a lot about making sure that their baby, their only vacation rental that they saved their entire life for, is very well taken care of. And you say, I've got this, it'll cover if somebody spills stuff on your linens, it's going to cover that. Everything's going to be great. They're going to say, sign me up, right? And why that matters is each one of them, they have a cost, right? And that's what all kinds of different things, but both of these are great, right? You're going to be dealing with all types of different people. But you need to know when you go to this, like, how do you approach it? You're going to be able to charge a little bit more somewhere. they're going to be able to take a little bit away. There's going to be certain services you want to offer that you can't offer to everybody, just strictly because that's just not their focus, right? If you'll go back to, you know, revenue versus safety or cleanliness, right? There's just a different way of pitching different things. So be aware of that. Now, when you talk about ideal client profile, if you're just getting started out in property management or any business, right, you're not going to have the luxury of being able to choose this. I wish that that was the case, right? I wish that we here at Hostaway, when we were starting out, we could pick the ideal clients for our software. Well, that's just not how it goes. Sometimes we got to take whatever we can get and we kind of mold that. And so that's what's going to happen to you too. But it's always good to have in mind, ideally, what do you want to get your business to? Because then you can start, when you start being a little bit more successful, start turning away people. When you're just starting out, you can't turn away people. You want to be able to get whoever you want on there and learn the business, and then scale up from there, and then get rid of the ones you don't want to have, get them over to somebody that fits them a little bit more. So be aware of what you want to serve in the market. When we talk about business models, we'll dive into that a little bit more in the next slide here, but we've got 3 different business models that we see fairly frequently here at Hostaway. I don't think there's any more than this. Is basically you own the property, right? You arbitrage the property where you're renting it for one price and you're putting it on short term for another. And then you have your typical rev share, which we see quite a bit of, where you're charging a certain percent every night. And then another thing is, when you're first getting started out, you want to make sure that you have some really good branding, and that goes into your ideal client profile as well, right? So whenever you start your business, right, it's very easy for you to start up Joe's National Vacation Rental Software or Vacation Rental Management, and you start out as an international brand or national brand. Well, you're going to be attracting people probably that are going to think that you're a bigger company than what you are, that are not in your same location, that are going to probably expect more, right? And that's just come from being a national brand. There's a lot of national branded property management companies out there in the space. And so you have quite the jump to make to get that. So probably starting out, that's not the best model. Or so, for example, if you go with, Jane's Key Largo vacation rentals, you're going to be more local, right? And so when you go into that market, and maybe it's your local market already, it's going to be way easier for you to get clients on in that market than by branding yourself as a local market than versus a national market. Now, I would say starting out, your brand's going to be fairly important also because of the way you position yourself. When you go to these property owners and you say, hey, I'd like to, manage your vacation rental, you need to make sure you have your brand very, very well put together, because what you're doing is you're expressing how well you're going to take care of their property or not, right? So if you go to them in your flyers or your website or things like that, or your logo is, maybe not up to what it should be, you're telling that person that you're going to that, you're probably not going to take very good care of it. Now, if you go with a brand that says, Joe's National Revenue Driven Property Management Company, we get the most bang for your buck, and it's just dollar signs everywhere on your brand, you can go to that revenue driven property manager and probably close that. But that's, again, going back to your ICP. So it's very important. It's also very important when you come to your ideal guest profile, right? Because once you get started into property management, driving customers back or driving guests back to your brand so that you can get those recurring guests and you start seeing that revenue pile up even more. Your brand's going to be very important. So you're going to be something memorable, right? So whenever you want to go to, say, Key Largo, right? For that example, you're probably going to type in Key Largo vacation rentals, and who's going to be number one? It's probably going to be Jane's company over here that has it in her brand. So be cautious of it. I'd say be aware of it, right? When you're starting out, you're going to make a mistake with branding. It happens, right? You can always adjust your brand as you go on, but just keep that in mind. It's always good to know that going in, that you need to be flexible, but know it going in. I personally would start locally and expand out, but I wanted to give everybody here. I didn't want you coming back a year later and saying, Josh, you didn't tell me I need to be careful about my brand. Well, I did. Actually, it was on slide 7. And then finally, last but not least, our software here at Hostaway. We talked about it when we started this slide, but there's so many resources out there now, guys, that you can go in and get really good software, so you don't have to go at this alone. This webinar here, our software at Hostaway is built for you to make great revenue. It's based on the fumbles that people have done in the business and came to us and said, hey, we need a solution for XYZ issue. And we've put that in our software so you don't have to make it multiple times. And that's the whole beauty behind being able to connect in this day and age, and get software behind it. Is like people have already stepped on the tacks when they're walking through on their journey. And you don't have to step on those same tacks. And so that's what we're here for. There's a lot more software in the industry. There's dynamic pricing where you don't have to go in and guess anymore about, hey, is this going to be a great price? Is there, when I was talking about location, there's AirDNA, there's key data, there's other websites out there you can go to right now and figure out how do I get started, and you don't have to go at it alone. But that's my part of this. I'm going to turn it over to our VP of product here, Maria, to finish this out here. Thanks, Maria.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Very happy to be here today to talk a little bit more about. So actually, that's not my slides, but if you want to go onto business models, I think you talk a little bit more about business models. Yeah, that's my slide. Thank you. Yes, basically, so I want to talk a little bit more about what is important when scaling, and what should you be looking at, right? So, and I will try to provide a little bit of a tech angle to that, because obviously I'm a tech person and I lead the product here. So it's important for me to talk about what we do as well. And in any case, what we have seen over the years and from many of our customers as well, that once you start growing, once you start adding more properties, the first thing you need to consider is to leverage technology to make you operationally more efficient, to save your time, to save your costs, etc. Because it gets to a point that doing things from platform to platform is just not possible. It's not manageable anywhere. So what should you think about when preparing your business for scale? You may be thinking, yeah, adding more properties, different locations, different OTAs. That's maybe they have different customer targets, different locations. So one of the first things is to ensure that you are consistent across a few areas. Josh talked about ICP, that's ideal customer profile, ideal client profile, ideal guest profile, call it whatever you want. Basically, it's the right guest. It's for you to consistently attract the right guests for your property. So you can have a property that's, it has a pool, or it's in a location for family vacations. If you're trying to bring another type of guest, you probably will fail there, because it's that type of property that's, you have the right guest, you have to find the right guest for it. So when the way that a PMS like Hostaway can help you ensuring that you are attracting that kind of the right guest for you is by leveraging the marketing tools that we provide, like booking engines to build your brand. You can use our promotional tools to enhance the guest experience. We will talk a little bit about the guest experience in a minute. That you can automate and customize the right messaging and communication flow that is relevant to your particular customer. For instance, you can customize all the different communication touch points as well, and you can even use AI for this purpose. Apply even sentiment responses. So when it comes to properties, consistency on properties, it's important that you understand what are, that you need to provide a certain level of descriptions of amenities, of pictures that are consistent across the different platforms, right? There's nothing worse than, having a different picture that leads to some confusion to guests if you don't provide that consistency. But other than that, having consistent set of standards for all your properties also helps you simplify operations, right? From maintenance to housekeeping. It's a uniformity that if you are able to rent to your properties, it will be a lot easier for you to manage multiple properties at the same time. Marcus touched upon it at the beginning, right? So you the first 5% that you lend when you're doing vacation rentals, you can apply exponentially and you can scale using that uniformity and consistency. Because also when new properties are added, so they can be set up and marketed quickly for you, following if you have established templates. And then we talked a little bit about consistent pricing strategy that helps you positioning your rentals in the market, right? Whether you are targeting luxury travelers, budget vacations, maybe mid-tier, I don't know what else. Pricing supports your brand's market positioning. There is one caveat here that's whichever the pricing that you choose is going to bring some expectation from the guest. So the higher the price, you can expect a higher demand from the guest, and you have to be sure to be able to deliver. There's a little bit of a misconception here that we as property managers, we are not selling stays. What we are selling is a service, right? So it's important that you're able to keep consistent in providing that service, in delivering what is important to the guest, what is needed. Regarding setting up pricing strategies, Josh already mentioned a few. There's a few tech products out there that can help you doing that. So RDNA, key data, they analyze the market, so you can take recommendations from them. There are also dynamic pricing tools like Price Labs and others that they provide a lot of they aggregate a lot of data. They're able to analyze that data, apply some machine learning to it, and provide pricing recommendations. The one thing that we see that is recommended is that you spend time analyzing also those recommendations and configuring these systems, making sure that the settings are correct, and experimenting and checking until you find the right price. So it's just really not plug and play technology in that case. It's also something that you should spend time working on until you find the right pricing strategy that you can then scale to your other properties. All of those tools integrate with Hostaway. For us, they integrate very seamlessly. So whatever prices you set up on those tools, we will be able to distribute to many OTAs. Owner contracts, right? So you ensure your owner contracts are clearly defined. So we will talk a lot about the guest experience, how important it is, the guest experience, and to bring the right guest, but it's also very important to your relationship with your owners. So many, I think in the boat here, the majority are vacation rental owners. You may have one property, you may have their own two properties, but as Marcus demonstrated with the spreadsheet below, it makes a lot of business sense to bring properties from other owners as well. And when you start doing that, then suddenly you have a new relationship in your life, is the relationship with the owner. And you have to make sure that the relationship is clearly defined in a contract. So you're not surprised with anything, right? So if something breaks, it should be very clearly defined who is responsible for fixing this. At the end of the day, it's an expensive business. You're in the business of providing a service to the owner as well, to make revenue for them, to make revenue for you. So it's important that all of those contracts have very defined lines there. Then diversify your marketing. Do not rely on just one or two OTAs to get bookings. Again, you're going to be in the business of optimizing revenue, of optimizing occupancy. That's where distribution becomes important. It's also a way of diminishing risks, because it may be that you can have all your properties in Airbnb. You can rely on Airbnb technology. It's really good. But if something happens there, if they change their algorithm, or if they change something, or if you, for whatever reason, one of your listing gets suspended, suddenly you lose all of that business, because your properties are going to be downgraded, or they're not going to be visible anymore, or they're going to come up on search results. So that's something that you need to avoid. And also, the more you distribute your inventory, the more optimization you bring to your occupancy, right? Because you will be able to reach to a wider audience. I mean, and one recommendation here from me is leverage also new OTAs. Leverage Google, for instance, Google Vacation Rentals. They can bring a ton of business for you there. All right, so taxes, licenses, legal compliance goes without saying. It's important to understand how taxes work. If you move to a new location, talk to your local authorities about licenses, what licenses you need to comply with. There's a ton of documentation online about it for specific locations. The way a PMS can help you here is to ensure that you stay legally compliant, because we are able to identify taxes from all of the different locations, from all different OTAs. We're able to break down those for you, so you know what is being collected, what you need to remit, etc. And also when it comes to licenses, we also are able to set up those licenses in the channel. So you need to have the information, and then through Hostaway you can do it. You can distribute those licenses to the different OTAs as well, because they're going to be requesting that. So they will not advertise properties that don't have proper licenses there. All right, so that's for this section. If you move to the next slides. All right, so we talked about the owners. The guest experience is the most important thing you need to focus on, basically. And in here, reviews drive a lot of this guest experience and how you are perceived, basically, because reviews are a public testament to the quality of your property and the service you provide. Remember, it's a service at the end of the day. Positive reviews will build trust and credibility with any potential guest that you have. And it's essential anyway in a market, in a time that we are today, where consumers often rely on the experiences of others to make any sort of buying decision, any sort of booking decision, right? So what we've been told by many of the OTAs is that the majority of the reservations are driven by reviews, by positive reviews. So it's important for them to keep the quality of the inventory on their sides. It's important for Airbnb to have high quality inventory because they focus on the conversion. So the higher the quality of that inventory, the better it will be for Airbnb. So they're going to ask a lot from you on there. So think about the profile of the traveler. We already spoke about it, about maintaining that consistency on the ideal customer profile. What is that you can give them that will drive a good review as well? Ensure that you can provide the expected experience. I mean, it goes without saying, really, right? So don't promise anything you can keep. If you advertise a property with a pool, then make sure that that pool actually has water in it. You know, I think it happened to Marcus once. So, and basically avoid complaining guests. Review check all the reviews that you have. One thing that OTAs tell us that is a good strategy to drive good reviews is to review the guest first before the guest reviews you, and automate this process, right? So if the stay has been good, then provide the review to the guest, and that actually what they tell us is that it drives up the chance for you to get a good review from the guest by 40% actually. So it's nothing to be dismissed. And then at Hostaway, for instance, we can automate this process. We can also aggregate all the review data from all the different OTAs, and this is important because this is data that will help you improve on the areas, or analyze the areas where you need to improve, where things could be done better, but also understand as well a little bit more about your ideal customer. What do they need? What they usually request? And again, it's all about tailoring everything that you do towards that specific customer that is bringing revenue for you. And next slide, thank you. All right, so to finish here, a little bit of recommendation on scaling the teams. Having a co-founder helps. There's a lot to learn. So I guess dividing and conquer is what's helps here a little bit. Focus on the guest communication. If you haven't, and if you follow our YouTube channel, we had a very good webinar a couple of months ago with one of our bigger customers, that explains how they manage the guest communication at a scale. It's a very good learning. So they talk about how many touch points they do, how couldn't they really scale all of their business with the automation provided by Hostaway and all the different customizations that we're able to provide there. And it's very, very important that the communication is good. Also because, again, if you plan to distribute your properties in different OTAs, communication is, or the effectiveness and the how fast you're able to respond to a guest actually has an impact on how high you you rank on the searches. So it's not the only factor, but it's one of the factors. There are many factors, but this is one actually. Again, quality, good communication, prompt communication is very much what drives ranking in these OTAs. When it comes to cleaning, it will happen that it will become more complex as the portfolio grow. So you can do maybe 2 cleans on a Sunday, but maybe not 5. So managing this using software is something that you should consider, right? So especially it's again about automating assignations of jobs to cleaners. It's about ensuring that if something gets modified on a reservation, specifically if someone leaves early or arrives before the check-in time, you can automatically manage this with the cleaner, and basically connections. As the portfolio grows, more and more unique requests will start coming in, right? So not only the basics such as plumbing or cleaning, but you will also need maybe a roofer, electrician, a general contractor, interior designer, a lot of things actually. Because many things can happen. Many things can happen, you know, in a 10-year event. Everything that can happen, it will happen a few times. So it's important that you keep all those connections on your speed dial, probably. And finally, maybe a little bit of a recommendation, right? So when selecting technology to do this, one of the important things that you look into is that, first of all, that they have the highest level of integrations with all the OTAs, so the synchronization of your prices, availability, the content export is the best possible. That's because you cannot afford to have double bookings. You cannot afford to have any issues that can then drive bad reviews, that can drive bad guest experience, and at the end, it's a problem for your business. But also very, very important is that it has an excellent customer service. And I think Josh here is testament of that. That if something happens, technology sometimes can have glitches that you are properly taken care of. And that's it. So that's all for me today. I hope it was informational and you enjoyed it.
All right, I'll answer the most popular question here first. Will this be available? Can we get a recording? Yes, you can. All 5 or 10 of you asked. It will be on YouTube. How do you find it? To open up Google, you type in Hostaway YouTube, it will be there. I promise it will be impossible to miss. Now, we're going to get to the QA section, so make sure you fill it up well so that we have a lot of material to go through. But first of all, those of you who are already customers of Hostaway, if you want support, contact support@hostaway.com. Now, there was a question we got here about someone who started as an owner is now transitioning into being a property manager. How do they set up Hostaway? That's exactly what our customer success team is for. So you can reach out to customer success@hostaway.com. Now, before we go to the Q&A, there's one thing that I realized was missing from the slides. And I wanted to share a bit about setting up a business, and specifically a property management business. Something that we see a lot of our customers get frustrated at and failing and have to redo from start is because they didn't do the proper research when they started the business. It's very easy to have an idea. You have a vision and you think about, you know, what kind of business do you want to run? What type of properties do you want to manage, for whom, and who are going to rent them out to? But that may not be the most profitable business model. And the best way to find out what's applicable in your market, where is the unique opportunity, is, I would say, 2 things. First of all, talk to the local real estate brokers. Give them a call. Say, hey, I just bought a property. I don't need your services right now, but I'm having a hard time finding a property manager. See who they recommend. In my experience, they will always recommend the worst ones, probably because the worst ones pays them the most. So when I say the worst ones, when you go and look at the reviews from the guests, you'll notice that the properties are not well maintained, they're missing basic amenities and so on. But then what you should do is you should talk to the best ones. Pretend to have a property. Those of you who are property owners, a lot of them on this webinar, just call the local property managers and ask them, what do you think? Can you make any money off my property if I give it to you? What you'll probably find out is that a lot of them, especially the older ones, those who have been around 10, 20 years, they have already found their own niche. They know exactly the type of properties they want to manage and that they're good at managing. and they'll tell you right away. They'll say, sorry, we only do minimum 3 bedrooms, or we'll only do beachfront or with a pool. They'll tell you that right away. And this is your opportunity, because if you talk to enough of them, you can find out what is the market that they're catering to, and what is the one that they are not catering to. If you find that out, that is probably your easiest path to success, is going where nobody else has gone before. So remember to do that market research and find out your competition. Now let's get to the QA section. This is the favorite part. So first of all, Vontavius had a good question. Do we have owner contract templates to share? No, we do not, but I gave the feedback to our marketing team. We definitely should. A couple of questions about needing licenses and compliance here. As a general rule of thumb, you typically don't, in many locations, you don't need a license. So for example, if you're helping someone buying and selling a property, that would be licensed in most places. But if you're renting it out, helping someone, in most places, you do not need a license. But this shifts if the location that you're talking about is one that is experienced with vacation rentals. So Florida, again, a good example there. Everywhere in the state of Florida, you have to have a license. Not if you're doing long-term, but if you're doing short-term, you need a license. Fortunately, because Florida's entire GDP is based on tourism, it's very easy to get that license. But check it out for your specific location to make sure. But in general, the answer is no, you typically don't need a license for this. Which is also a great opportunity, because if you're operating in a market where you don't need a license, it means that you're going to find that a lot of your competition are doing things wrong. They're amateurs, they didn't do their research, they're not doing things the right way. This is your opportunity to step in and take over their market share. Now I'll let Josh and Maria ask a few questions or answer a few questions.
Sure. So we got a question here. I'm sorry, I can't say the name, but can I have different OTAs than the ones featured on your slideshow? So the short answer is yes. The longer answer is it's probably not going to make that big of a difference. and what I mean by that is there's tons and tons of places out there that you can go and advertise your properties. But what you want to do, especially when you're getting involved with starting as a property manager, starting out, is you probably want to go where you're going to get probably 99.9% of your business. And that's what we shoot for, right? Because we could go out to every OTA that's out there and make the investment, make the time to do that. But based on our research, the reason why we are so heavily invested into the big ones is because, quite frankly, that's where you're going to get your business. So if it's something that brings value, we would implement that into Hostaway. But again, you can go out and use what's called an iCal on a lot of these places to just control the calendar view of it. But it's probably not going to bring you much business. So there's that one, and I wanted to answer for that. Also, not a question, but a big statement is the Hostaway customer support is the best. Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. And then another one here is we're new to Hostaway. We want to familiarize ourselves with it. So what Marcus was talking about earlier, our customer success, email customersuccess@hostaway.com. We not only do these webinar series to make sure you're successful. This has, a little bit to do with software, but basically it's here to make you successful. That's the way we run our business, and that's the way we invest into our customer experience. So feel free to email. That's what it's different about our company than others is we want to be your business partner. We want to show you what we've learned and help you out along the way. So that's what we're here to do. So please email customer success somebody dedicated will get in contact with you. We're not there to just talk about Hostaway. We want to give you feedback on the industry if you want that feedback. So reach out, Christine, and we'll get you taken care of.
There's a couple of questions here about how to find property owners and the contract and what type of commission deal or business deal you should do with them. So I'll try to answer all of that. First of all, when you're doing your market research, call out to the competition and tell them you have a property and ask them to send over a contract to see exactly what's in there. What you'll probably find is that they have a contract that's based on a template, which doesn't actually reflect reality. This is at least my experience. When you start looking into it, they have a lot of empty fields and they have a lot of situations that are not covered at all. But when it comes to finding owners, well, if you don't have a reputation yet, now is your time to build it. Those real estate brokers, if what I'm saying is true, they will be recommending property managers that end up getting terrible reviews from guests. Now, these brokers are the ones who can bring you the customers. You can let them know, hey, if you're referring people to this company, their average rating on Airbnb is 3.4. I'm running a 5.0 show here. So if you have more demanding customers, please send them over to me. That would be a good start. And in general, networking. Even other property managers can help you. If you're in the mid-tier segment and you got a competitor who's in the luxury segment, they must be getting a lot of inquiries from property owners who have mid-tier properties and they want them to be managed by the luxury property manager. If you can offer them a commission, tell them, hey, anyone who doesn't suit you, then send them over to me. That's the way it works. Real estate might be based on location, but actually it's based on connections. It's who you know. Now, there was someone asking about red or green flags when you meet or talk to property owners. This is very, very important. So there's a lot of things you need to look out for. Unfortunately, the only way you'll learn is through experience. We have some customers who have had really terrible experiences with owners that are trying to micromanage them and threaten them to leave, and they constantly push them for higher rates and lower prices. That's definitely not the type of property owner that you want to work with. Because keep in mind that what you're providing, the core service that you're providing to an owner is ease of mind. That is what you're providing. But in order for you to be able to do that, you have to allow them to give you peace of mind as well, to do your job, which is renting out these properties and making sure that they generate income and that the properties still stay well maintained. That's why it's called a property manager. To do that, you really need to find the right type of property owners. And I think the questions that they ask when you meet them, those are the ones that will help you determine. Unfortunately, there's no short list because it depends very much on the location. When you look at the owner structure, let's say age, gender, family situation, how many properties they own, that differs from location to location. And that's why the type of questions will also differ as well. Maria, there's some more technical questions here. Maybe you'd like to answer some of them.
Yep. So someone's asking if there are any plans for improvement changes to the task manager. Yes, we will add some more improvements in 2024 to it. So watch that space. A question here, why would I choose Hostaway over another PMS? Obviously unbiased. So I think that's for me, one of the key things here is the stability and the reliability of the product, right? So and at Hostaway, we actually put a lot of emphasis, and I put a lot of emphasis in my team on making sure that we keep these very the highest tiers of integration with the OTAs, because at the end of the day, basically a PMS channel manager, it's there for you to help you scale in way of the distribution and the automation in making you operational more efficient. And if we didn't have these good integrations, we didn't have, if they are shaky, or if you have a PMS that is not able to update your prices correctly on the channel, so that it's not able to get the message to the guest in time, or you're not able to add a review, etc. That basically is all detrimental to your business. And by having these connections to this OTA, basically we are measured by the quality of the integration with them. So it's they have very high quality standards in terms of the quality of the integration, and we need to keep them. So it's definitely testament that you will have the quality there for sure.
Yeah, and someone else asked how we are different than what's the main difference between Hostaway and Lodgify. I'd like to quote the question here earlier. Thank you. Hostaway has the best support. Don't take my word for it. Open up Google, type in best vacation rental software. Now, don't click on the paid ads, click on the organic results. Click on number 1, number 2, number 3. What you'll find there, and the results will, of course, differ on where you are and which device you're using. But in general, you'll find out what our users are saying about Hostaway. And you can do the same for Lodgify. Search for Lodgify reviews. I think it's very easy to paint a picture there if you just read a couple of those reviews there. Now, marketing strategies. A lot of potential clients are asking about marketing strategies. So this is a very interesting question here from Jesse. One of the things property owners will want to know when you take up their property, even though they're looking for peace of mind, sometimes they are looking for money. It's that simple. And the way they expect you to differentiate yourself is by saying that you are better at marketing their property than anyone else. I'd say a pretty good, but also a pretty lame pitch is that that you can get bookings on their website. That might be true for some property managers, but certainly not all. It depends on the brand they have. And this is what Josh was touching on earlier. The brand that you create, even the name, does it have your location in the name? That's something that can make a massive difference. Now, what I would do if you're pitching your marketing strategies is say, unlike all these other property managers, we have this great reviews, this many stars on these platforms. And we estimate that that 39% of your bookings will come from here, 37% from there. Let's take Airbnb, Vrbo, Booking.com, and your own website. And then what you should do as well is give them an estimate for the occupancy rate and the ADR. And when you multiply those two together times 12, you'll get the annual revenue. And that's something that if you can break that down by channel, if you know from experience that you get 40% of your bookings from one place, then that's probably going to apply to these new property owners as well. That's at least the way I would answer that question about the marketing strategies, and just say, look, this is how much your property is going to generate. How do we know that? Because we're more experienced than anyone else. It's that simple. I know maybe you're not experienced yet, but that's what you need to tell the property owners to get them on your side.
Yeah, and a really good point on we've brought up property owners quite often here, and I think one of the things that maybe we need to think about here is also we brought up the guest experience, but you have two different customers when it comes to your business. Now you're going to have your property owners and you're going to have your guests, so the guest experience. What I see fairly often is that we forget about that we're serving the property owners as well, and we forget about their experience. And one of the things with Hostaway that we invest in as well is we have software for property owners as well. So your owners can log in and have a great experience as well. That have the financial reporting systems and the owner statements right inside the Hostaway portal. So you give them a good experience as well. So you need to make sure that you're concentrating as you're building your business on your owners and your guests. You're not going to have properties to rent out without owners, and you're not going to have guests without the guest experience. So make sure to keep that in mind.
All right, there's a good question here from Kathy. Any suggestions from an area becoming saturated with short-term rentals? There's been a very interesting trend in the last couple of years. I will quote Simon Lehman on this. Right now, in travel, the best place to be is short-term rentals. We are living in an amazing boom of this industry right now. It's a great time to get into it, but a side effect of that is that there will be inconsistencies in supply and demand as a business grows. So what we saw in 2022 was that there was a massive spike in demand and there wasn't enough supply. And this is still true for many locations, but whenever that happens, prices go up. And then, of course, what happens next is more supply follows. Why would you not rent out your place if it can make a lot of money? the Excel that I showed at the beginning here showed that you can't really make money if you're buying a property right now in Kissimmee, but you might in other locations. But now for Kathy specifically, what you can look at is what type of rentals are working and which ones are not, because this is a very fragmented landscape. Not only do we have different locations and different neighborhoods, different countries to deal with, we also have different type of properties and different type of guests. And whenever a market becomes saturated, you can find a niche that works better. Maybe it's big families, maybe you add more beds, maybe it's business travelers, maybe there's amenities that the property owners would like to add. But in general, to anyone wondering about too much supply, I think this is something that we have to live with for now, for a while. We have seen, and this is simply because we have spoken to a lot of property managers and we have a lot of experience in this space. It wasn't always a big boom like it has been 2022 and 2023. So my recommendation is have a look at your business. If it's a bit slow right now, have a look at the essentials. Look at, for example, how do you divide the revenues between you and the owners? What are your marketing strategies? What about your staff? Are all your reviews good? Do you have good reviews? If not, go back and look at what you can improve right now, because even though the sun is shining right now for our industry, there might be rainy days ahead. And the property managers that are prepared for that, they are going to be the ones who survive. And you know what happens when there's a bust and there's the next boom? Demand will skyrocket, and there's nobody else to serve there. So if there's too much supply available now on the rental side, it means that some of them will give up. If long-term rentals produce more money than short-term rentals, they will give up and go there. And then if travelers come in hordes to your location, you need to be ready to accept those new property owners, and you need to do it fast. And this is the way you can scale your business. There's no industry that has stable growth over many decades. They all go a bit up and a bit down. And you should be prepared for both. You should be prepared for a boom and you should be prepared for a bust at all times.
Yep. All right. So changing gears a bit, another question here. So does Hostaway has a tool that can show me the data for occupancy, incomes by month, year, comparing last year with this year? Yes, we do. We do a very comprehensive financial reporting. You can also tie to that financial reporting any expenses or costs of your business, and basically get a pretty good idea of your performance in terms of occupancy and revenue. And it's fully customizable, so it will match your business model. I think there was a question before about that, in particular about business models. Someone was asking about whether it's more common to apply fees or percentages, or what are the flat fees or percentages. One thing that we've analyzed recently from our software is what type of commissions do our customers or property managers charge to their owners. And it comes out that the top tier is about close to 20% in commissions, and the lower tier are around 10% or so. So there's a space in between both to basically fits your right the model, the right model for you then.
We got sorry, we're running up on time here. We got a couple of questions with people who have maybe one property now and they're planning to add more later. As of now, we don't have the capacity to serve one property owners, but if you go on our website and you type in 2 or 3, and you'll get to talk to our team. Like I said, that's what we do for a living. We talk to existing and aspiring property managers. If you're planning to add more properties, we can surely help you set up the system for you. So please do that. Now, David Hall had some feedback here in the QA section that I could never say on a webinar, but I'll quote David Hall here. He said, "I was with Lodgify and could rarely get someone on the phone. Onboarding was rough." Thank you, David Hall, for saying what I can't say. Now, any final words from Josh, Maria?
I feel like that was a setup, Marcus. Now you won't listen. No, what about you, Maria? Any final words? Reach out. Listen, we're here to make you successful. That's how we were able to be the industry leader. So that we want to continue to do that, and we're going to continue to do that. We invest heavily into our customer experience. Thank you so much for the feedback on that. Our product is there to help you out, to make you more successful, and so is our customer success team. So feel free to reach out. Customer success at Hostaway, or inside of your Hostaway panel that supported Hostaway. Maria, any final words?
Only final words is that we haven't been able to answer all of the questions, but you can rest assured that we read all of the questions and we keep all of the questions, and we use those questions on our discoveries and part of our feedback. So we really listen to you, and we're really happy to have you in this webinar. So yep, great.
All right, thank you everyone, and see you next month.